Hello there, bestie, and welcome to the Empower and Evolve podcast. I am your host, Kat. I will be your guide on this transformative journey. I'm a hypnotherapist and a mindset coach that is here to reconnect you to your most empowered and liberated self. This podcast is a space where we will explore the vast landscapes of mindset, career, business, cyclical living, energetics, spirituality, and beyond. I invite you to join me as we traverse these expansive topics, igniting the spark of liberation within you and setting the stage for an empowering evolution into your most authentic self. Without further ado, it's time to plunge into today's episode. Our guest speaker today does yoga by day and burlesque by night, April Ace, all the time. I'm joined by April Ace for this episode, and we talk about the beautiful fusion and unison of burlesque and yoga, body positivity, performing versus personal practice, and everything in between. But I want to tell you a little bit more about April. April is a yogi at heart and a burlesque performer in soul. Both practices have become one and the same, as many of the principles apply to both of these expressions for her. She has incredible appreciation for what our body can do for us and the creativity that our mind has. And it really takes confidence to meet yourself on your mat, let alone be present as yourself to an audience. Burlesque and yoga have carried her through tough times, as well as united her to community and long-stemming friendships. April invites anyone who is curious about exploring movement through creativity to attend either of these practices that is of interest to them. And it is never too late to enjoy your body, let alone create ease of your mind. Enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empower and Evolve podcast. Today, I'm joined by April Ace, and we've got a super juicy topic talking all things about yoga, burlesque, body positivity, and so much more. Thank you so much for being here, April.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is such a delight.
Oh, it's going to be so great. So before we dive into everything, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? Where are you from? What's your journey? What's your story? How did you end up where you are today?
Oh boy. Fasten your seatbelts, but go on pilot. Yeah, I live in a small town at the Boundary area. I grew up here. I was involved in things like 4-H, sewing 4-H specifically. And after high school, I did as most people do, and I left town. Couldn't wait to get out of here. But before that, because our teen years were very difficult for, as most people, I found yoga. I took my mom's yoga books that she had from the 70s, and I curated a yoga practice for me, and particularly of 5 poses that were of benefit as well as interest. So shoulder stand, I really enjoy that. Leg lifts, which I really dislike, but are good for you. After high school, again, I left town. I started to live my life as a young adult. And when I moved to Victoria, that's when I really got into my yoga practice. There was just an abundance of studios, like-minded people. And that was also a time that I told myself I was going to retire from bikini contests, which I did starting at 19. Had some really amazing opportunities, celebrate my 24th birthday at the Playboy Mansion. It was just kind of like, whoa, I'm just from a small town. How did I get through these gates? And that also prompted me to begin my career in health and wellness. So with all of that combined, I knew that bikini contests were, kind of age limited. So I was really fortunate to be in Victoria and have burlesque be availability. And that's when I started to perform. and it really gave me more stage time than a bikini contest. And it really encompassed your creativity as well as what your body could do for you. So it wasn't about that superficial presentation. And the wonderful thing about being on stage in burlesque is that you really have the choice and control to show the audience your best self, what you want to share. So both Victoria brought together my yoga practice as well as the opportunity to experience and perform burlesque.
Wow. I love doing these podcasts because I learn so many new things about people. Like, I actually want to hear a little bit about the story of the Playboy Mansion.
Oh goodness, yes. It happened.
Like, how? What? Tell me.
Marketing gets you far in life. It was just always something of interest to be in a sense a hot chick, a hot babe. Uh, my dad's records always had these beautiful illustrations, and Playboy in the 80s especially, as well as the 70s, really did highlight that youthful, hypersexual, feminine woman. And I do think that it is a very power tool to embrace. And just personality wise, I gravitated towards that. I love Jessica Rabbit. It was just always a dream to be that hyper feminine, sexualized woman. And through the bikini contest, I did have a friend. She was this beautiful white blonde, and I was a chocolate brunette. So we were in a contest called the Playboy Girls of Golf, and we had to get the players to vote for us. And so she and I had teamed up, and marketing, chocolate and vanilla, vote for us, everybody's favorite, and we won. So
Amazing.
yeah, putting yourself out there. And this is the interesting thing about, I guess, just burlesque as well as yoga, because you do have to have a sense of faith and security for yourself. And you really don't know what's available unless you either ask with confidence or know how to ask. And being able to really just put yourself on that top level of what could be and filling those shoes because you know that you made those shoes too.
Yeah. I truly believe that like putting yourself out there and actually allowing yourself to dream and going after your dreams is really the key to anything in life. Like,
Absolutely.
we have to. And I hate it when there's people who tell people, oh, this is not realistic. You could never do that. Like, how can you say that?
Totally. And especially if you don't know, like
Yeah.
everything that was shooed, airplanes, cell phones, transportation, my goodness, the internet, I still don't really have a tangible idea how it works, but it's here.
Yeah.
Somebody thought it, made it, and it's in just a household name. So yeah. How do they say in the Rocky Horror Picture Show? That song at the end, the dreaming song.
That's not coming to me right now either. But
That's
people look it up. Pause the podcast and look it up if you want to.
Yes, dream it, believe it, do all of that, manifest.
It is. And I think like the one key thing that people often miss in manifestation is like they just like sit in meditation and just like think about it like, oh, I'm gonna think and feel my way to my goals. No, you have to take inspired action. Like you still have to put yourself out there. You have to get
Absolutely.
creative. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that you guys just came up with the vanilla and chocolate. Like that's so genius.
And very obvious in a sense as well, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's familiar, it's creative, and it worked.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I really love the fact that you were drawn to this from an early age. This is like, I feel like there's such controversy around, burlesque. Well, maybe not so much about burlesque, but like Playboy and like being that super feminine, like sex goddess. It's like there's so much controversy around it. But if you talk to women who have done it and who've really done it from the the place of I've done it for me because it makes me feel good in me. Like you can see it in them. Like and you can see that confidence and the power that they gained from it. Um,
Hmm.
I'm reading a book right now, and I wonder if you've read it, The Pussy, a Reclamation.
No.
You need to read it. Seriously, it
Hey.
talks basically exactly about what you just said, and she's very focused on a woman who regains her sensuality and her sexuality, becomes so radiant that she actually lights up the people around her.
Hmm.
And it
Beautiful.
starts with
Yeah.
us reclaiming our connection to our own sensuality, our sexuality.
Absolutely. And especially if it's part of who you are naturally.
Mhm.
I have an aunt in comparison and she's very conservative and that's her comfort and it's very endearing because it is who she is. And never do I try to push my
Yeah.
comfort onto her because that's uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I think, again, as you said, like when we choose to explore this for ourselves, it is empowering and it's not a taboo because we're not entering these scenarios and personalities of desperation or misguidance. It's really about, yeah, I like taking off my top in front of a room full of people.
I love that. And like, how cool is it that you actually love it? And like, there is just something so beautiful about women who really own their bodies and are comfortable with it. Like, I remember when I went to the Burlesque show here in Golden, the girls from Calgary came and did a show. And I was literally like, I saw one of the reels that they posted. I was in the front row, and you can just see me in the reel, like sitting back and just having this like big smile on my face, just enjoying it.
Yes. And it's infectious when someone enjoys themselves,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. One of
Yeah.
my favorite things whenever friends and family would come to see me perform, and after the show, they would always tell me, or like after the weekend, Monday, oh, April, you were so whatever, positive vibes, right? I immediately went home and tried to strip off my clothes. And it's really hard. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, it takes some practice and dedication to make it look effortless. And I just love that they, in the privacy and comfort of their own being, have felt inspired to try something and to explore just new movements and space around them and within as well.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. And yet you guys do make it look super effortless.
It's so hard.
It
Thank you
probably
for that.
takes like pre-planning and like certain outfits and like things like that, right? To like really make it effortless.
Absolutely. And it's really becoming so implemented that you rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. And part of the fun of live performance is regardless of how much you have rehearsed, you never know what the moment's going to bring. And
Mm.
sometimes those mishaps are are what makes the show that much more special.
Mm. I love that. It's almost like the vulnerability of making a mistake and it makes you just human again, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so excited to dive into all these things with you because this is something I'm really passionate about myself is, feminine embodiment, women getting back in touch with their self, with their femininity. And I feel like burlesque and yoga both, to be honest, are some of the ways that women can find that. And different women find it in different ways, right? So tell us about like when did you decide to become a yoga teacher and how was it like that you then combined the two, like maybe going a little bit more into depth about your story of yoga and burlesque and how it kind of came to be like the two things that you really share with others.
Absolutely. And it's really full circle, coincidentally. Towards the end of my stay in Victoria, I lived there for 13 years. And again, I explored studios. I found myself a teacher. And through the studio, I started to take privates with her. And I really do refer to her as my mentor. I'm very grateful to have her as a friend. And through these private practices was the aha. oh, it's the same. And she had said to me, the movement is through the breath. It's like your performance. The performance is through the breath. And it just clicked so simultaneously that both the public performance and my private practice were exactly the same. You have the same disciplines, you have so many crossover traditions that I was like, oh, they're not one or the other. They are the same. And it's sort of like my daytime self, April, and April Ace is my legal name, and my show self, April, which my stage name is April Ace. I am one of the same. So it's been a game changer to unify them and not have to keep them as a daytime persona versus nighttime persona.
Right. And when you're referring to personal practice and public performance, personal practice is yoga and then a public performance is burlesque, correct?
Yes and no. Haha.
Hey, tell me more.
I would love to. This is sort of like, I guess, my $1 million question and another aha as well. And it was challenged through another teacher that I took my certification from. And it was a really great moment for us just to sit and breathe and think, as she did have qualms over me combining both yoga and burlesque and utilizing burlesque as a platform to access yoga. And I some I guess challenged. I somewhat
Hmm.
challenged her to think that the amount of times that we see a public yoga class practicing 108 sun salutations, going to a yoga festival where we're all in public sharing our practice, versus taking a one-on-one with a burlesque coach and or taking a special class where you learn skills and it's something that either you do for yourself in front of your mirror or in the comfort of your home, or you do share with a partner or a person of interest. So she hadn't ever thought of it as that. So your burlesque practice can be very much your own personal performance, either for yourself or that special someone. And same with your yoga practice, that can become your public performance as well. Posting on social media, I found that very difficult to share my yoga practice because it had been so personal and now I'm making it public.
Mm, yeah. It's such a thing, hey, like actually allowing people to see into your personal practices. And it
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability because, like you said, they're personal.
Exactly. They're mine. This is
Yeah.
my or me. Yet I think sometimes people get maybe confused that when you go to teach, you teach for them.
But it's still for you in a way, correct?
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
paradox of it can be both at once.
And another similarity within burlesque as well, we always have the juxtaposition. So before we go to do more so a reveal, and that can even be just from look versus costume reveal, but we always go inward to then expand outward.
Mm.
And that's pretty much your yoga practice as well too. We have the span do. You have that tension and release.
Yeah.
So even through both practices, you are performing for yourself ultimately.
Yeah. Oh, that's so, so beautiful and so true. Like it really gets me thinking. How do
Yeah.
you find, like, besides that teacher that you took your certification with, who was slightly challenged, and I can see her point, because again, probably she looked at it more from the like burlesque is sexualizing. We don't want to like sexualize yoga. Like, I get where
Mhm.
she's probably coming from, but again, maybe not necessarily. I'm glad you got her to see it from a different angle because
Yeah.
there's so many nuances to everything.
Exactly. And so much of it is about application as well, too.
Yeah.
My yoga body is not a sexualized body, and my performance body doesn't have to be a sexualized body either. And I think that's a really important conversation to have. If I'm wearing a sports bra in a yoga class, I'm doing it because I'm probably overheating.
Yeah.
And I think that it needs to be shared that a body isn't a sexual body unless we choose to present it as such.
Yeah, unless the intention is behind it. That was actually
Mm-hmm.
something really beautiful I learned, or like I really noticed last year at the Earth Daughters Festival, which I know we'll be both going to as we're recording this. Once this launches, it will already be in the past. But I remember coming to the festival and there was so much nudity. I don't even know if you know about this and I'm not prepared for it. What?
There's something
Sorry to
about
burst your bubble. There's
okay.
so much nudity. Like so many women, there's a lot of like women just choosing to be topless for the whole weekend, which is awesome. And then
Yeah.
there's just a lot of nudity during the workshops as well, because a lot of them really explore like, what does it mean to connect to your womanhood, to your vulva, to your pussy, like just really diving into it. And I feel like through those workshops and allowing women to space to be comfortable and be witnessed by other women in that space, then it just kind of opened the floodgates of some women were like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to be naked for the whole weekend. And it was so beautiful.
I believe it is. Absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited. I'll pack even lighter now.
Yes, exactly. I was in a group chat with some of my girlfriends and we were talking like what we will bring. And then one of them was like, well, I have no festival clothes. So I plan to be naked for the whole weekend. So it makes packing really easy.
Yes.
Right. It's again, it's the sexualizing of bodies, because what if bodies can be exactly that, just bodies?
Absolutely. And it really detaches from the self of the now and allows you to be the essence of who you are. And I think that is so important and probably a big precursor to a lot of issues that we face on a daily basis.
Yeah, because again, if it was more open, like naked bodies would be more open to the public, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't just be, the Playboy bunnies, the Photoshop bodies, the porn stars,
Mm-hmm.
etc. People like, especially women, would see that bodies come in all shapes.
Yeah.
And it's like not about having to be this super skinny, super toned person, but actually just embracing that beauty comes in all shapes and forms.
Absolutely. And a lot of times that attraction comes from the intellect,
Yes.
the way the person carries themselves and moves and entices the other individual.
Mhm.
I get asked a lot of times, what is the difference between stripping and burlesque? And I unfortunately can't recall who said it, but it was a burlesque performer and teacher. And simply put, a stripper is placed into a fantasy, whereas a burlesque performer invites you into their fantasy.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah, hey?
That's such a great distinction.
Mm-hmm. Because when you go through those strip club doors, you know what you're going to be seeing. You have the set expectation, which is fine, right? Like I go to a movie theater, I go to plays. So
Yeah.
when I want to go to be entertained, yes, I do want to be surprised, but I also want to know what my money is going towards.
Yeah.
And, and I think that is a really nice way to share the stage with other performers that we share similar performance styles.
Absolutely. Oh, I really love that, because it is like, because you guys create your own performances, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is really inviting others into your fantasy, and it really comes into the embodiment of your practice. Like because I dragged my male friends with me to the burlesque show. They were
Uh,
like busy building something in that, and they were like, "Oh, I'm too tired." I'm like, "What? You're not gonna come to look at like boobs with me? Like, who are you?" I
good
dragged
for
them
you.
along,
Good.
and they were both loved it. So it was one of our close male friends and my husband. And there was a lot of women who were a bit more curvy. They were a bit more, voluptuous. And
Mm-hmm.
my husband afterwards said, I've never been that attracted to bigger ladies. And he said it, and he was like, some of my favorite performances were actually the bigger ladies. And it's like, it's that confidence, it's that holding it, and just
Yeah,
acceptance.
exactly. And the individual has such an appreciation for their self. And again, that intelligence is coming through because it's orchestrating the movements of the body.
Yeah. Oh, so true. This is actually a really great segue. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how burlesque and maybe even yoga as well has helped with your own body positivity. Because let's be honest, we're women. Like, I don't know a single woman who hasn't at one point or another struggled with this.
Absolutely. And especially growing up in a small town, puberty was really difficult for me. And so I didn't always get the best feedback about my appearance. Knowing I came from really good genetics, knowing that my mom was a babe herself. But one downfall for me was the fact that I did have underdeveloped breasts. So there came I guess it would have been right before I celebrated my birthday at the Playboy Mansion. My mom gifted me breasts. And so I felt very confident in my body and very excited. I really felt complete. And that did give me the confidence to market myself and to pursue Playboy Girls of Golf. Um, so within burlesque, again, moving from bikini contests,
Mhm.
you kind of have a shelf life.
Mhm.
And again, it is very superficial. So burlesque gave me that opportunity to exercise my mind as well as my body. And there was one, just a short tangent, one yoga teacher who had been a former gymnast. And throughout the practice, she kept saying things like, "Isn't this delicious?" And "Isn't this juicy?" And it vibed wrong with me at the moment. And she said, "Make yoga your personal practice." And I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. Right. I was grumpy. So I took that almost literal. And at the same time, as I was discovering all these yoga studios and yoga teachers, this was the same time it paralleled with me discovering burlesque. So I vowed to myself that every number I did, I would put a yoga pose into it.
I love that.
Yes, and so it's been difficult to try to get professional yoga photos, as most of my yoga poses are me nearly naked, covered in, you know, glitter or goo, doing camel pose, doing bridge, doing whatever yoga pose I found suitable for that number.
I love that. That's so fun.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, just a little side tangent. I was asking April for a photo for the cover of this podcast, and she sent me some really awesome photos. It's gonna be hard to choose. And then she said, like, I'm sorry, I don't have any professional yoga photos. I was like, burlesque is so much more fun, like to look at least visually, in my opinion.
Yes, yes. And you get to discover new shapes and explore spaces. And I think that's the same thing about your yoga practice as well, is that can you find diamonds within your body? Where can you soften and create S curves within your body? You have the front, what about the back? What about your side to side? So it's very much your mind, body, and breath connection, and it's exhilarating. I'm sure you've experienced some yoga practices where your skin is literally tingling.
Yeah.
Now imagine being naked, sweating, and absorbing the vibration of an audience applauding.
Mm,
Yeah, that's where I get off.
yeah. No wonder. I would too. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. So,
Can I loop back just to the body positivity? I want to share a very important story in my burlesque career. And it goes back to my mom buying me boobs as well. I had the opportunity to choreograph a number to Janis Joplin, my mom's favorite singer, and perform it on Mother's Day. And my sister flew my mom down to Vancouver. It was my mom's first burlesque show. It's my skimpiest outfit ever because I do like to pack light. It was a sequined thong bikini over top of a rhinestone G string bikini. Yes.
Amazing.
And I performed Summertime in front of my mom. And first burlesque show ever. They brought her up on stage. She loved it. And after the show, I said, "Well, Mom, what did you think?" I give full acknowledgement that my genetics are such a gift, and I've really valued them and want to keep them as wonderful as they are through my burlesque, through my yoga, through my lifestyle. And so thank you, Mom. And she said to me, "You are so classy."
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It's stayed in my heart, the lump of gold that just weighs me down from time to time. I'm so grateful for my mom, for the ability, the confidence she's given me, for the body she's given me, and ultimately for her approval of how I carry myself and ultimately honor her.
I love that. That's so beautiful. What a beautiful legacy to leave. And I feel like this is something I'm so that book that I mentioned earlier, I'm part of a book club for it here in Golden. We meet up with like some girls and talk about it. And
Oh,
in there,
funny.
so great. Like imagine meeting with 10 women and just talking about pussy. So great. In there, a lot of them are moms and a lot of
Mhm.
them are talking about like how they parent, and it's very like untraditional, and I actually chatted to my husband about it, but like the girls are very curious about, one of them is like, oh, I don't know, like I want to watch you do this and I do this, and it's just that openness
Mhm.
of sharing with your kid. And I unfortunately didn't really have that growing up, but again, I don't blame my mom. I was brought up in post-Soviet Union Estonia. I couldn't think of a place that was more probably pushing women down and like not allowing them to be in their radiance. So
Wow.
there was none of that, like female bodies were not really something to be talked about, not something to be shown. And I'm hearing these beautiful women talk about how they are parenting their daughters. And I really wish that it would be more accepted, I guess, that as females, we teach our daughters that, hey, you have this beautiful feminine body and it's your temple. And these are like the bits and bobs about it, and really take care of it because it can be a beautiful source of pleasure for yourself and for
Yes.
others if you use it in like a healthy manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that you got to share that experience with your mom, and that you're really doing this as a tribute to her as well. Yeah, that's so,
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
I really, really love that. So tell us a little bit about the workshops that you run, because you combine the two, right? I'm like, I wish I was closer to you so I could come to one.
Yes, and if I get my act together in technology more so, I'm hoping to be able to post them online, start a YouTube channel, but put it on the
Coming.
vision board. Yes.
Work in progress.
I have combined both the yoga and burlesque. As I've said, they're very much the same. I've seen a lot of crossover, both in tradition and respect to those that have performed and practiced before. Um, I do refer to it as Bohemian Body. I feel as though it's enticing and does encompass the overall concept of appreciating your body, of utilizing the play in hard work, and choosing what you want to showcase to yourself and or for others. So there's a lot of exercises in yoga, warm ups, poses, performance enhancing poses, I like to refer to them as. And in a yoga practice, I find it's more hard work because you have to be more consistent. You have to show up for yourself. You have to be more vulnerable. There's been times that I've been completely unhappy and I throw my mat down and I just vocally have said, I surrender.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Other times I've had a show, stress has been happening, I'm choreographing something, something's not working, and I just have to throw up my hands and go, I surrender. So both are very true in art form and spiritual practice for me. And so I've just been able to offer this to my small community, really emphasizing the benefits of having a female body. I'm a bit more explicit within these yoga burlesque classes than I would be in my public yoga practice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just because it is a safe space. And for me, I'm very much influenced by pop culture, which is a big driving backstory to much of my burlesque numbers. And a lot of times, even within my yoga practice, I won't listen to a traditional yoga playlist.
Yeah.
Um, Listen to Corn or Rage Against the Machine if I've got some shoulder work I need to do,
I love
right?
that.
Yes, and it's a place that you can just release from expectations and be able to learn traditional practices both within yoga and burlesque and gain some insight to our pop culture, which is a big influence to our everyday life.
Mhm. Mm. I love that. And how have you found, do people receive it well? Like, do you find that a lot of people are curious about it? And when they come to the workshop, like, are they open to it?
They are, and I'm very grateful because being in a smaller demographic, you do chance that there is a smaller mindset. And I'm really grateful that the minds that have gravitated towards me and me to them are really hungry and are really playful at heart. So they have been very well received. Um, there's been very little negative feedback. And so far, the only, I suppose, negative feedback would be that it was too much movement. So,
Hey, okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone has always felt very welcomed, they felt very comfortable, they've always had a lot of fun. They're really surprised at how much strength they do have, or where in their body they're kind of reserved or locked out of. Before this, when I still lived in Victoria, as a gift, I did gift a workshop to a friend who was getting married. So during her bachelorette party. And I knew there was different personalities within there. So I was like, okay, do something a bit more conservative, and then do a little bit of twerking, and then do a slow peel or a slow bird. I threw a little bit of everything in there as a smorgasbord. And it was really fun to see who liked what
Yeah.
and who was good at some things.
Hmm.
So it was really enjoyable and very inclusive because nobody felt they weren't good at it. Somebody was good at something and everybody enjoyed something.
That's so fun. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
really great. I reckon you should, pitch yourself to do a workshop next year at Earth Daughters.
Put that on the vision board. Yes, okay.
That would be, I feel like it would be so well received and so fun. Like, I would go,
Well,
like, for sure.
good. And if everyone's already naked, we're already halfway there.
Exactly. Exactly. So why not?
Okay, good.
Oh,
One thing that was really fun through a burlesque mentor about manifesting, because with yoga comes science, and I've found out in my adult life that I really like science. It's not just a boring class you take in high school. And Legs Malone, she was doing the Forgiveness Lab, and it was a great program. I highly recommend it. Wonderful movement performer. And she said that the only difference between manifestation and magic is matter versus ether.
ooh.
And there's arrows pointing to each and that. So when you are manifesting something, you have the ether, the right here it is, and the magic, yes. And then when you manifest it, it becomes the matter. It's here. I've got it. I did it.
So cool. I love it
So
when like little things like that just get dropped and it's like, yeah.
absolutely. It's all encompassing. You have to have those hopes and dreams and those bigger pictures and just figure out how you can make it actual.
Mm, I
I
love
guess,
that.
yes. That
Yeah.
was an incomplete sentence. Sorry.
It's fine.
Internet.
So for those who are listening and they're like, wow, I'm so inspired, what would be something like that you'd recommend, like if they've never, for instance, done burlesque before, or like even yoga, or they want to combine the two, like what would be some of your recommendations?
For sure. That's a good question. If you're starting off in the comfort of your home, the internet is an amazing place. You do have free workout videos on YouTube. That's where I do go for either inspiration or especially if a budget is of concern, whose isn't. So I do think that YouTube is a really great place to find either videos just to watch,
Hmm.
be it yoga or burlesque. Sometimes if I'm trying to find a new yoga teacher on YouTube, I'll just put on a video while I'm cooking so I can listen. Sometimes I'll just watch the video. Um, Watching previous performers' videos is always inspiring. Keep in mind, it's taken a lot of work to make it look that effortless.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can tier up and make an investment, not only for yourself, but to support those that are already doing, there are really wonderful online yoga studios, both in yoga and burlesque. Um, you can ask people who are already currently in either practice, yoga or burlesque, ask them who they really admire, if they have any teachers that they enjoy. There's usually always a drop-in class for yoga. You can connect with your local theater, see if there's any performers that are coming. Many times when there's visiting performers, they will do workshops. That's a really great way to support the arts.
Yeah.
Um, Something that's always struggling and just feeds the soul and the mind. And if you can tier up something like Earth Daughters Women's Festival, you get to be exposed to so
Yeah.
much. So being able to do your yoga festivals, to do your burlesque festivals, and there's an abundancy of yoga festivals. There is
Yeah.
one in Nelson at
The
the end
Kootenai
of
one.
June.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that one.
yes. And we're going to be honoring and acknowledging our burlesque legend, Judith Stein, Mama Beeve. And again, both yoga and burlesque, there are those that have paved the way for individuals such as myself to have such freedom and availability to share my performance in a safe, honored way.
I love that. I really hope that people get inspired to, like the listeners will get inspired to go and dive a little bit deeper. Like I actually want to go and find some burlesque classes on YouTube now and do them.
Yes, do it. They're great.
That would be fun. Okay, April, I have just one last question for you to wrap up this beautiful episode. For those
Mm-hmm.
listening, what would be your one piece of advice for them?
Ask questions, put yourself out there, connect with community. Um, if you don't vibe with someone, it's nothing personal. This whole human experience is nothing personal. And you really don't know what you're capable of unless you truly try. And don't be afraid of the hard work. And don't forget to play in between.
Such good advice. Yes, I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being on, April. This has been so fun. I'm really excited for everyone to hear this incredible conversation. And
Oh, thank you
hopefully,
for having me. This has just been absolutely a delight.
yay. And I hope that you're going to figure out this technology stuff and start doing some online work.
Me too. If there's any tech savvy people out there, holla.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for tuning into the Empower and Evolve podcast today, my dear bestie. If you found this episode inspiring and elevating, I would love for you to consider expressing your support by taking a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Help me extend the ripple of empowerment by sharing this podcast with those in your circle who may resonate with it. And if this episode has struck a chord within you, I extend a heartfelt invitation to share your experience on Instagram and make sure to tag me at It's Coach Kat and let's spread the love together. Until we reunite in the next episode, may your journey be filled with empowerment, evolution, and the unwavering pursuit of your most authentic self. Now go and liberate yourself. And until next time, take care, my dear bestie.